The oldest bivalve fossil by 2.5 billion years. Billion with a B. Again, I know that geology is not like a thing that we're well versed in, but I literally cannot even stress to you how much of an error that is. On top of the actual lying, he also just lies by omission, by just not telling anyone what these fucking mountains are. You know, the last thing you want to do as a conspiracy theorist is give people the tools they need to actually do their own research. So the craziest thing is that he even says, according to a meaning that, you know, they call me crazy, but to me that implies that there is an official source. That he then just not fucking given. But I think I'm going overboard even assuming there actually is an official source. Because he's attributing to the official source is completely and utterly incorrect. The fact that this entire video is just based on him straight up lying is made even funnier by the quote that he opens with in the beginning. If they say the news is fake, imagine how bad history is. Remember, folks, when it comes to conspiracy theorists, every accusation is a confession. Let's have a quick look at the comments of this video before we move on to the next one. Yeah, they can tell us 3 billion years ago the Earth was underwater, but did not go that way. Wouldn't all the evidence be circumstantial? Were there any witnesses? Oh my god, that's such a fucking... Oh, these people drive me insane. Honestly, it's been giving me a large amount of pause to try and tell myself that Shane really is just a rage bait account that I've fallen for, because I have a hard time believing that a person like this actually exists. Were there any witnesses? Were you there for 3 billion years of Earth's geologic history? I don't think so. Crazy thing to say as well to someone promoting creationism. That argument would also work for them. Shane, were you there when God created the world by snapping his fucking fingers? I don't think so. The only difference between not being a witness to all of Earth's geologic timeline and divine creation is that we have evidence for all of Earth's geologic timeline. What about carbon dating? We will discuss that later. Yeah, Shane, I would love to hear the guy who thinks that clams existed 3 billion years ago try to understand fucking radiocarbon dating. Please, make my fucking day. And the best part, you ready for this shit? Disclaimer, this video is for entertainment purposes only, and not to be taken as fact. I'm trying to keep professional here. I'm trying to keep professional. But the only thing I can think to say when I see something like that is that, Shane, you are, how do I say this really nicely? A coward. I don't have the words in the English language to, see, I told you, to express how fucking insufferable it is to watch someone poison the knowledge of humanity and then at the end tack on a little disclaimer being like, well, just for jokes. That is like actually fucking disgusting behavior. It's like that fucking meme of like this woman who was like, I dated this guy who was like 5'4", and he would always like start shit with like huge like 6'3" dudes at bars, and then like right when they were about to knock him the fuck out, he would hit them with the yo, I'm just a little guy, I'm just fucking with you. Shane like gives that heavy. Yeah, I know I'm like poisoning society with my lies and misinformation, but like, hey, dude, it's just for entertainment. You're overreacting. It's not that deep. Chill out. Fucking insufferable. Genuinely fucking insufferable. Let's move on.
Now, in this evolution theory, it's said that dinosaurs evolved and they were around 250 million years ago, and they were running around evolving.
They were running around evolving. Look at me, out here, running around evolving. Maybe if I think really hard, I can grow wings. Fuck. I need to be running around to evolve. Okay, I'm gonna run 3 laps, and I'm gonna grow one like a tongue like a fucking chameleon. This is gonna be the dilemma I have in every video that I talk about Shane. Trying to figure out whether or not he genuinely doesn't understand what he's talking about, or if he's just intentionally making himself sound like a moron. Either way, as funny as running around evolving is, it's a classic creationist tool used to infect the minds of their flock to make them doubt science. The same strategy works for many different topics, and it sort of just revolves around taking a complex scientific idea that's well understood and oversimplifying it so much that you can just trivialize it and say, see, isn't that stupid that they believe that? Y'all remember in my ruining my Instagram Reels algorithm video that like creationist Big Bang doesn't exist? Clip, you know, this one.
Wow.
It's exactly like that, where creationists take the term Big Bang and then, you know, interpret it as like a literal explosion in the sky, and then the Earth existed, which is just not at all how it works. And by them presenting it like that, they are, again, just fucking lying. Good point, Shane. I'm running around right now, and I'm not evolving. Those silly evolutionists have no idea what they're talking about. I know you don't need me to explain this to you, but this isn't how fucking evolution works. Evolution takes...
See the last video from me?
That's an awfully big file you got there. They don't download that fast. Rome wasn't built 2 minutes before class.
And that, you can just use AirDrop. You better get in there.
The futurist. Is she really able to read the future? Or must she settle for inspiring it?
Fucking countless generations to work. It works very slowly. If you don't understand this, just type evolution into fucking Google and read Wikipedia. I promise you, it's really fucking simple. Anyway, this is more of a biology thing than a geology thing, but I just wanted to say something here. So let's get back to geology.
Now you can Google this next part for yourself, but it is laughable. To identify how old a layer of rock is, they use something known as index fossils, which is a species of animal that lived within an approximate time period, and they know that that layer is not that old. But how do they know that that fossil lived around that approximate time period? Well, it is judged by what layer of rock it's found in. So the layer of rock tells you how old the fossil is, and the fossil tells you how old the layer of rock is. That's called circular reasoning. The other way they tell you rocks are hundreds of millions of years old is by using radiometric dating. Trace radioactive impurities are selectively detected, and they can tell how old they are. But this method of dating was called into question after Mount St. Helens erupted in 1980s. They tested the lava with this method, and it came back between 350,000 to 2.8 million years old. Comment your thoughts below and follow for more.
That sounds really fascinating, Shane. I've never heard of that paper, but you piqued my interest. An entire form of dating, an entire field of study, written off by a single paper? This sounds like some pretty groundbreaking stuff. Sounds very scientific, and I'm sure is something that you researched very heavily, because Lord knows you wouldn't want to be spreading any misinformation here.
Right?
Also, absolutely delightful to hear someone complain about circular reasoning when the entire line of reasoning for all these videos is, I don't know, Bible says so. Anyway, Kate did us the honor of peer reviewing this information, and we'll let her explain this one to you.
Yes, everyone's got a problem with dating, and I wouldn't expect any less from this guy. But it's honestly pretty understandable coming from him because he is definitely not learning from reliable sources. He's citing search engine AI overviews, which are known to be not very factual, especially in geology. He did an investigation last year with Proof News. I guess we'll put a link to that in the description if you want to see how bad AI is at explaining geology topics. One of the biggest problems that I have with it is that it's scraping information from every website that talks about this, including the ones that contain debunked pseudoscience, confirmation bias. Moving on, relative dating is a method that can be used to correlate rock layers with each other without knowing their absolute numerical ages. We just know if they're older, younger, or the same age as another layer of rock. And this is built around another principle of geology called the law of superpositioning, which says rock layers on the bottom are older than rock layers on the top because the layers on the bottom had to exist first in order to get buried by younger rock layers. And by the way, all these principles are actually the fundamentals of stratigraphy, which is the study of rock layers and how they correlate with each other. And it's what I'm going to grad school for. I love this shit. Something that Shane brings up right away when talking about relative dating is index fossils, and the AI overview tells him that they're used to know the ages of rocks. Which is true, but then, like a normal person, this is a very normal thing to be curious about. He looks up how we know the ages of index fossils, and the AI gives him an unhelpful answer that he interprets as circular reasoning by scientists, rather than maybe this isn't a good source of information. The use of index fossils is built upon the principle of faunal succession, which says if a rock layer contains an index fossil, then we know that rock had to form during the time window, usually a brief time window in relative Earth's history, that guy existed. And if you find that same guy in another rock layer, even in another part of the world, you know that those two rock layers must be around the same age. The thing is, before radiometric dating, we didn't know exactly how old these were. We just knew how old they were in relation to each other, relative dating. And we didn't have all the answers, but we got pretty detailed with it, largely because geologists were really good at pattern recognition. So when radiometric dating was invented in the early 1900s, we were finally able to get like numerical ages of this stuff, and those numbers have only gotten better and better as technology has improved and new research has fine-tuned major events. Shut up! There's always crime in my neighborhood. How it works is by measuring radioactive isotopes trapped in a mineral when it crystallizes. As these parent isotopes decay into daughter isotopes, we can compare the ratios of remaining isotopes and calculate how much time has passed since that mineral formed. So there is an unfortunate hang-up in this method, and it's something that young Earth creationists and conspiracy theorists throw back at us and say, well, this can't be true, you can't possibly say this is right, because they're missing a fundamental key thing, and that's we know that you can't use this on sedimentary rocks. We know that. And we don't. Because if you were to date a sedimentary rock, what you'd actually be dating is a mineral grain, like a grain of sand. And that came from a different rock. The sedimentary rocks are made of sediments from other rock. That wouldn't be telling you the age of the sedimentary rock. It would be telling you the age of some completely irrelevant rock that is definitely much, much older. This particularly sucks because sedimentary rocks are where fossils are, index fossils. So how do we get the ages of the rocks and of the index fossils? By using a combination of relative and radiometric dating. So along the same lines as index fossils, we have these things called marker beds, which are really easily identifiable beds in a sedimentary sequence that we can trace over large distances and multiple rock formations. These beds point to a very specific time in Earth's history. This rock layer, no matter where it is, we know it all from the same time. Sometimes these are just sedimentary, which is very useful in relative dating, but still can't use it for radiometric dating unless it's volcanoplastic. Breaking up that word, volcano, plastic. Blasts, which is the word that we use for the pieces that are inside sedimentary rock, the grains and sediment that make it up. Volcanoplastic beds are strata, layers of rock that are either partly or entirely made up of volcanic material, like ash or glass, that after an eruption would settle into a basin along with all the other sediments and then would become a very identifiable layer within the layers of sedimentary rock. And yes, you can date that shit. Ash beds are a holy grail in SedStrat, and they were a huge part of my undergrad research because of how useful they are in correlating over rock formations. And this is where relative dating comes in. Because let's say there's two ash beds in a section of rock. And this is something that I saw in my research area, and they were like just meters apart in the rock wall. So we dated both of these ash beds, and we know how old they are. We have a number for it. We now know the range of age at the rock in between it is, even though it's sedimentary rock and we can't radiometrically date it. But wait, there's a special fossil in there, an index fossil that we previously didn't have an age for. We now know a very specific range that it has to be in age, and we can use that now to date every other rock layer that index fossil shows up in all around the world. Now the rest of the things will take an unfortunate turn because it's not based on a fundamental misunderstanding, it's based on straight up lies. And we're gonna drink. We need to drink sometimes. Unsurprisingly, he doesn't give any source for this Mount St. Helens dating incident, but I did 5 minutes of digging and found that it came out of the Institute for Creation Research, which spouts all the pseudoscience about how the Earth is actually really young and that millions of scientists are wrong about it in the exact same way. How about that? The incident was documented by a man named Steve Austin, not to be confused with Stone Cold Steve Austin. This guy is more like Stone for Brain Steve Austin because it just seems like he doesn't have a single real thought up there. Anyways, in the 90s, he conducted this research project where he dated what should have been like around 10-year-old rock, but because he got this absurd number, he's like, well, radiometric dating is actually bogus, and everything that we've used it for is now null and void. Now, I read the paper that he wrote about this, and I scrolled to the methods section, and I knew instantly why he got that number. The dumbass used potassium-argon dating, which is arguably one of the worst possible choices for a rock this young. Potassium-40 decays into argon-40 at a half-life of 1.25 billion years. That means in the 10 years since the eruption, there only would have been a 0.000000055% decrease in potassium. I don't know if the 8 zeros made it clear, but that's virtually undetectable. Like, respectable geologists with knowledge of geology and radiometric dating, if that's what the researchers are trying to do, know that potassium-argon dating is only used for things older than 20,000 years, because it literally cannot show a difference for less than that. Even more so, we know that it's most accurate beyond 100,000 years, all the way up to 4.5 billion years. When you want to date rock that you know is relatively young, you use another kind of radiometric dating, maybe uranium-thorium, which is highly accurate from just a couple of years up to 600,000 years because of how fast uranium-238 decays. This guy claims to have a PhD in geology. There's no way he's that stupid. Either that, or he's deliberately trying to discredit radiometric dating to serve his own agenda. But go either way, Lance. A smart person is skeptical of research with little credibility, and the truth of the matter is, this guy does not have any work published in peer-reviewed journals that are outside of the niche creationism community. That should tell you something. Confirmation bias. Again. So yeah, Stone-brain Steve Austin is a hack of a geologist and an absolute disgrace to our fields, and I hope I run into him at a conference before he croaks, so I can still be on his shoes. Stone-brain Steve Austin, how funny.
Stone-brain Steve Austin. I'm gonna give you that one, Kate. That's pretty fucking funny. I don't think I ever would have thought of that. See? This is why we need you on YouTube. Making YouTube videos. It's pretty funny, right? We need more people doing this. We need more people taking the piss on YouTube. Making jokes about stones and things. So as we can see, all of the evidence in this video that claims to overturn, the entire field of geology is predicated on two things. A guy quoting a bullshit article from a creation scientist without reading it, understanding it, or presumably even knowing what it means, and a guy using the fucking AI answer section on Google. This is what I mean when I say that Shane's research makes Philip Ziva look like a fucking PhD student. The absolute audacity to claim that you know more than all of science, and your source is the AI answer section on Google, and you not understanding science. The comments on this video are also just, I might add. Also, they carbon dated a sea lion's bones who they knew died a couple weeks ago, and it showed something like 4 million years old. Oh, something like 4 million years old. Damn, that's, I believe that. Do we want to get any more context here? As we've talked about, there's always